Did you miss me, Craig? Have you been trying to find a replacement?
For 11 weeks. It's been 11 weeks since we didn't.
It's not like you've been hitting me up trying to get me back in the booth. It's not like you've been wildly available. It's been the holidays. You have a newborn baby. Like, why are you putting it all on me? You've refelted every single table in the lodge, but it's like, I'm the one. Let's blame Kaylin.
You've been kind of everywhere.
Okay, that's
except
fair.
Austin.
That's fair.
When you are in town, you're very busy.
I mean, I don't like to be idle. I don't like to sit around. And when people ask me to do things, I like to be a person that says yes, both like socially and professionally. I like to be a person that says yes. So when I get invited to do things, I think that that's really cool. And that's kind of like the whole reason that I have been working on growing my platform and creating content on my own. So sort of the motherfucking game plan, Craig.
Feels like it's all about you.
It might be.
Sometimes.
Welcome to the Texas Poker Experience. I'm Caitlin Komeski. I am slightly too good now for my co-host, Craig Sear, who's very insecure about it. Welcome to our weekly podcast where we dive into those tough Texas poker issues just for you.
We've got some news, but I had a proposal. I think we should do our top 5 first.
I love it. Say yes. Yes, and Craig.
Okay. Top 5 reasons for your absence.
Ooh, I love it.
Okay. In no particular order.
Do I sound awful? I kind of feel like I sound awful. Like I'm trying to lean into the bit, but I just hope that people don't think I really am shitty.
I bought it.
You're like, it is real. You are shitty and we don't like you.
Okay. Number 5.
Okay.
You did some commentary at the WPT series at the Wynn.
Oh my God, that was so funny. Yes. So I did commentary for the full session, 12 hours, 12-hour day for the WPT vlogger stream. So they did like streams that went in concert with their Wynn series. So of course I got to play some of those events, but I came in on the earlier side of the beginning of the series to do this commentary. I got to be in the booth with Jeff Platt and Melissa Schubert. Jeff Platt is just like the consummate professional. I made a joke on the day because I showed up in like my cute little outfit. I mean, obviously it's an audio gig, but like I had like bought outfits for the week. Like I really wanted to feel confident. I knew I was going to be in situations that would make me nervous. So I just wanted to like, show up as my best self and like strut my stuff as much as I could and, fake it till I maked it. So I got, with my cute little blazer and mini skirt outfit to Jeff Platt, and he like pulls out a laptop and starts like pulling up stats on all the players. And like I felt like Elle Woods in that scene where she's in law class and she gets kicked out for not being prepared. Like the law professor asks her a question. She's like, I'm so sorry. I wasn't aware there was an assignment. She has her like little like fluffy pen and the like spiral notebook while everyone else has like MacBooks out.
You say consummate pro. He also seems to be well liked by everybody. He seems like a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah.
Do you agree with all of that?
100%. He was like nice and friendly to me from the first time I met him when we played that TCH stream together. He's been supportive of my content, and it was also so nice to start my day out being paired with him, because then I got to kind of like see how he cooks, and got to take tips from him that I got to take to the rest of my session after he left and I was with Melissa, in terms of how often he's cutting to the promos, how he transitions, different points of content. And I thought we were a great pair together because neither one of us like to get too heavy into the strategy. We're more interested in table dynamics and like ragging on people and more morning radio vibes. So I thought we made a really good pair together.
Tell us, or tell our audience, something they don't know about commentary, something behind the scenes, something, especially a long stream. Like those streams were very, very, very long. Do you get bored?
Yeah. I didn't get bored, no. I was especially during the vlogger stream, because it was so great. We had such a great cast of characters. Like Lynn had a very fireworky hand early on when the straddles were on. She shoved on top of Andrew Nemi's late open with Jack 3 offsuit, and he looked her up with Ace Jack, and the flop, there was a Jack and there was a Jack on the flop or whatever, and then a 3 on the turn, and she was like, no, or it was Ace Jack whatever on the turn, and then she went runner 3 to make a boat versus 2 pair or whatever. So that was like a great, so like, yeah. And then Kitty Quo came in later, and she was like making sure the wine was flowing, and she was really ragging on people. She might have been a little rude to Seti, but I think she's the kind of lady that, she doesn't really care. She likes to hold court and make people laugh. So it was so there was like not a lot of commentary in the second half of the stream, just because we were letting them cook. Mm-hmm. And have their conversations because it's pretty funny. And then the next day I got to play myself. I got to play the biggest game I've ever played streamed, 2550. With an all-female lineup and, play poker with some friends and some people that I admire. It was a real trippy to play with Nadia because I watched her episode and I got to tell her this later. Like, I watched your episode of The Big Game, like, over and over again on YouTube. I just, like, always really connected with you as a character and loved the way that you played and held your own. And she was like, ugh, that was ancient history so long ago. And I'm like, well, it means a lot to me. And this was, like, a really special moment. And then the next day, I had the rest of my, like, week and a half long vacation to just like play and try to make money on my trip, and I did pretty decent, but I got really emotional during one of the they do these entertainment moments at the WPT series, like at noon mark, they bring out like a drum line and a circus performer. And I was like, I used to host burlesque shows. So I was like gassing up the circus performer. I was like, yes, queen, or whatever. She did her tricks. I was like, clapping and hooping and hollering because that's how you watch circus acts. That's how you watch burlesque. So I was really hooping it up. And then when the drum line came out, it was so powerful. And like they filled the room and walked through the room with all these like drums. They were really good musicians. I just like got really emotional because I was like, wow, I like really took a chance on myself. And it went well. I had won money playing and had gotten some good feedback and engagement in the chat while I was commentating. So it was a really special moment.
Okay, that's a viable excuse. That's just the first one.
Yeah.
You also helped Nick Vertucci with a few episodes of his podcast on the West Coast.
Yes. So in mid-January, I flew out to Orange County and got to meet Nick. He is such a nice guy. I got to meet his whole family. He's so cool. We recorded 4 episodes and then 1 live show that we did with Robbie. We did the Q&A. We did 1 episode where he interviews me. That one's out and available to watch. And I actually go really in depth about some of the darker times in my life that led me to poker that I think as my personal friend, but like not a lot of people had known. And when I had been doing interviews on like Solve for Why or different like articles, I sort of referred to like a vague, quarter life crisis or like medical crisis, whatever, but I didn't really get into in depth about what was going on there. So I definitely do dive deep into my past and my struggles with mental health and eating disorders and substances. So definitely check that out if you want to know more about my personal life story. And then we did one where I interviewed him, which is not out yet. And then we did one where we did sort of like a poker news roundup, and we also interviewed his daughter. I don't know if that one's going to come out because a lot of the news stories are going to be a little old now. I don't know, TBD. And then another one we did with Lynn G. Hello, it's Lynn has just been released now as well. So that's available on the channel. And she goes in depth about her story, her weight loss bets, her different prop bets, and some of the sort of incendiary things she said on Twitter. I got to ask her about, and she clarified what she meant at the time. And it was just a really cool experience.
That's the strange thing in the poker community. We all like just strive for knowledge and information as fast as we can possibly consume it. So it's tough because the news changes so quickly. And if you can up an episode and you leave it for a week or 2 weeks, like something will change and there's new information, and the poker community's on top of it. I think that's kind of the nature of some of like Joey's 12-hour streams on YouTube, is that it's just like, this is happening right now. Information is coming out right now, and everybody wants it right now, and that's why people tune into stuff like that. It's kind of hard to record something and put it out 2 weeks later. It's already going to be dated.
But it's kind of like an ancient concept, right? And I'm going to say ancient, and then I'm going to name something modern, but like that water cool concept of like we all gather around oral history, gossip. It's how like communities kind of, bond and form connection and intimacy.
Now the water cooler is a live stream. With,
yes.
People zooming in and whatnot, but
within our little community, it's so funny when you like zoom out from poker and you realize like nobody, like I release these comedy videos, right? These like sketch videos, and they're very insular to poker. And if you're not on poker Twitter, you probably don't understand what the hell is going on in my most recent comedy sketch.
Yeah, on our way to the studio
so
today,
niche.
I was asking you who like 3 of the people were. I didn't even know who they were.
Yeah, I'm like, you kind of got to be on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, it's really funny, but that's a group of maybe like 50 to 100K people. So, it's definitely capped at how consumed it can be or how gotten it can be, but within our tribe, we all really get it.
So you get back from the West Coast for half a day and head off to the...
So I actually did Vegas in between. So on my way back from California, I stopped into Vegas. My bankroll was in like not a great spot, and I wanted to like grind cash games and just like make up for some of my like bigger losses. And I unfortunately got my ass handed to me with variance in Vegas. So I did end up booking a medium-sized loss on the trip. So that was unfortunate because the whole reason I had tacked on the Vegas trip was because I wanted access to like a smaller, medium-sized stake game, because in Texas we have a really healthy 1-2 and 1-3, but in Vegas they have these 2-5-10 and 5-10 options where the stacks are a little bit more capped, and I usually do really well in those games. Maybe it's just a luck thing, maybe it's a variance thing, but I got a two-outered a couple of times in big pots, and it just didn't go my way, but oh well. And then I went to Tulsa. But I got a girls' night out, and it was a very social time in Vegas. Like, I got to hang out with me, Melissa, and Marley. We have a group chat together. We're like super fun girly tribe together. And then we hung out with Jamie, who I love, girly tribe as well, and Danielle. So now we have a new group chat with all 5 of us. And we were just like the troublemaker gals of Twitter. And we had so much fun.
Good company, but Oklahoma as a state, number 43 out of 50, probably.
Well, that was in Vegas. That was the girls' night out was in Vegas. But yes.
RunGood series
Oklahoma,
after that.
yes. Then I went to the RunGood series. Haley Ocho, who's one of the partners of RunGood with Tana Karn, they invited me to come be an ambassador for their event, and it sounded like a lot of fun, and Tulsa's right there. So I went home for a couple of days and like did a load of laundry, and then went to Tulsa and stayed in the Hard Rock. I flew to Tulsa. I didn't think my car could make the 11-hour drive, and it was also like snowy and rainy and shitty, and the plane ticket was only like $300. So I thought like, that's not that much more than gas, and like the convenient and time saved. It's just like, so I just went ahead and bought the plane ticket.
And if you don't need a car while you're there, it doesn't make sense.
No, I stayed in Hard Rock like for 6 days straight. I left the Hard Rock like once, and like the people I was with drove me, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But so I stayed 6 days in Tulsa, and we played a whole series. It was super fun. I actually had some really good results. I finally got some good variants go my way. So I cashed 4 events. I ran deep in 3 events, including the main event, which I got 19th place in, final 3 tables, almost final 2. And then in the PLO event, I got 5th place, which was hilarious because I don't play PLO. But I really enjoyed it because it's like with PLO, you know, when you start so deep, it's like you can just fold and fold and fold. I just got to like wait for hands that were so good, even I couldn't mess it up, you know? So that was super fun. Went the distance with that one. And then another daily Hold'em event, I final tabled as well. So 2 final tables.
Okay. Next, number 2, your internet fame.
Yes.
Has definitely backburnered your
go
podcast
well.
responsibilities because you're busy with all the internets.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a piece of Caitlin, a chunk of your time.
That's very flattering. I don't know about everybody, but I'll accept the positive feedback. Thank you.
How do you deal with it?
I just say yes to everything
Except for
indiscriminately.
me.
You haven't. When did you ask me to record a pod? It was actually my idea to record this one. Actually, I was the one that incited this one. So
I thought it was the studio.
no, I literally texted you and I was like, hey, how are you? Do you want to record a podcast soon? Rewriting history over here.
I'll give you credit.
Thank you.
I'll give you credit. Number 1. Phil Galfond follows you on Twitter now.
Yeah, Phil Galfond. Well, he was one of the first people to follow me, actually. I know he's like one of my favorites, so that's why I had him be this joke for our top 10. But he actually, I remember he followed me right around the time that Marley followed me, like 8-9 months ago, probably.
What would you do differently if Phil Galfond did not follow you on Twitter?
Everything.
It's a total game changer.
100%.
You get that follow and you have to change everything.
It really validated my existence in many ways, but it wasn't as cool until I met Farrah. Farrah was one of the women that I got to play with on the WPT live stream. She's so hilarious and beautiful. And then I think she's really, really funny on Twitter. So I engage with her Twitter content all the time. And then Phil and her have been making couples content, which I'm a huge fan of. And she was in my most recent impression video that I released on Super Bowl Sunday, and she was a fan of it and left a comment, which I was really worried she wouldn't like it. So I was very, very happy that she did.
Have you had negative feedback on the parody videos? Has anybody been like, hey, what the hell?
The negative feedback is the people that just don't acknowledge it. Like, I don't think Jennifer Tilly liked the impression I did of her for New Year's Eve because She didn't respond to it. And I mean, like, it got like 30,000 views. It was one of my poorer performing videos, but she didn't comment on it. She didn't follow me. And like, she was tagged in it. So she probably got a million notifications about it. So I assume she just didn't like it for whatever reason. I mean, I made her kind of rude, so I can see her doing it. Like, and she's never said any of those. She said some of those things, but like some of like her just being sort of snarky to Twitter. That's not really her voice. So I can see her being a little annoyed about that. But I adore and worship her, and I just thought it would be really funny if she told obvious truths to poker nerds.
Okay, let's get into some poker news. That concludes our top 5. There's some very big live
Do you want to
streams.
talk about what you've been doing before we move on to the poker news?
No. I've been being a dad. I've been repairing poker tables, been building some new ones. I built the biggest one I've
Does
ever
everyone
built.
know you refelted every single table in the lodge? Have we talked about that? That like
I think maybe because that was
you've had your hands on all of those tables now?
I think that was in October.
You're strong, capable,
I did them all.
spindly
I
hands.
actually started on the 1st of October and I was done on the 30th of October. So I did like 80 something tables in 30 days.
It's really impressive. While
But-
dealing, while having like full-time hours dealing.
And being a dad.
And being a dad to 2 children under 4.
They cry. Both of them still.
Your boys?
Yeah. So I understand the baby crying, but the older one, it's
I
like
think the 4-year-old can cry. I think we
starting
need
to-
to not be annoyed at the 4-year-old.
when he's hurt.
expressing
When he's
emotions.
hurt, I can deal with that. But
Do you really? Okay, maybe we're just going to have a fundamental difference here, and I don't know how to raise a man, so you'll have to defer to me. But I feel like 4 is too young to start telling your young son like buck up. Like, doesn't that create a child or a man that's like not in touch with his feelings or a little
if
bit
he falls
hard
down
to accessible?
and skins his knee and is crying, I'm not going to tell him, "Hey, tough it up, rub some dirt on it." I'm not. That's not
Yeah.
my type. Like if you're hurt, if you're injured, let's figure it out. Let's fix the problem. It's more so like I want this candy, or so you don't
The
really have
whining, so you're
candy,
just
but it's
trying
like
to-
no,
okay.
you have to have some good food before you have dessert. And he's like, just throws a fit over it, and that's
okay.
that stuff's kind of maddening. It's like, dude, come on, you don't get everything you want, and crying is certainly not the way to get the things you want.
Okay,
You
so it's like
ask.
anger. Anger is the
Yes,
issue, and
yes,
frustration
fits.
is the emotion we're dealing with. Okay, that's a different thing. I thought he was like getting sad or scared, and
So
you
that's
were
our
just
current
like throwing him in a
current
river.
hurdle with the older one, and then the baby now is just kind of. He's starting to realize that he can get what he wants by crying. So he's
How
kind
old?
of starting
At
to
3,
fake
4
cry.
months,
He's 5 months. He'll be
5
6
months, they figure this out?
in March. Yeah. I mean, like simple things like he gets picked up when he cries. So literally you pick him up and he's like a happy, smiley, laughy baby. And then you set him down and he just starts crying because he knows like someone's going to pick me up if I cry. It's wild.
I don't
It's-
pretend to
it's really,
understand
really
children,
wild.
but I don't know. Maybe it's maternal instinct, but I'm like, well, if he wants to be held, then we'll just hold him because he's
but
a
then
baby.
You're digging yourself a little bit deeper hole.
Yeah, you tell me about it. I
each
need to
time.
know.
It's crazy. It's really, really wild. But long and short of it, rather boring probably to most. I mean, it's exciting for me. I love my life. But yeah, I'm just like working super hard. And
No, that's very interesting. I had follow-up questions for every single topic. Stop.
okay, probably not podcast follow-ups, but definitely
Whatever.
we'll follow up later. So Lodge has some huge live streams. They're relaunching their live stream. They've been off for, I don't know, a month, 2 months maybe.
I think it was, like a 60-day hiatus when it's all said and done. I don't
Brand
think
new
they-
studio. It's been teased by all the personalities, the
Mm-hmm.
Nemes, the Owens, Doug Polk.
So what happened, for those of you that don't know the landscape of the lodge, is the original lodge was in like a Blockbuster, which is in like a converted Blockbuster. There's like the corner of the strip mall. So that was the original lodge location where you see like the OG lodge streams. And it was a bit dingy, a bit like, but they had all the games there and they continued to grow. So they were able to expand into this larger space, which was in the same strip mall, just like around the corner 2 storefronts down, which was a Play-Mazing, one of these trampoline parks. So that's the current space that the lodge is in, that has like I think it can fit 80 tables in that space. You would know this stat better than I
It's closer
can.
to 60.
60. Okay, so they can fit 60 tables in the main space. The front area of like what 30 tables is for cash, and then the back has another 30 for tournaments. And then they can, on the really popular series, they even fill up the center walkway with tables as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that includes the walkway tables in the 60, but we'll ask the lodge boys. So what they did was there was in one of the two storefronts you pass from the old location, which they still have for tournament overflow. They bought one of these storefronts in between, and they gave it a gorgeous facelift inside. Lodge has never put this type of capital towards aesthetics before. They definitely dumped a bunch of money into this revamp, and it looks stunning, like a very intimate, like Austin living room of like a new money wealthy family. Like very gorgeous. Man cave vibes even.
Yeah, it is really, really nice. And I think it's the storefront in between. So I think the three
Yes.
connect now. If they
Can you walk in between, or do you still have to go through the front doors?
I don't know
Who knows,
details
but, yeah.
about the egress or anything like that, but they just the three now. There's nobody else. Like all that foot traffic in front now is all going to be lodge foot traffic. No one really has any reason to be walking right there.
And
like
there
all
will
the
be
parking
weed
in
and
that
cigarette
corner and
smokers
all that
to
stuff is
guide
all
you between.
right. Yeah, it's all right there. So basically, their original space is now tournament overflow and like a training area for the most part is what they use when they do those dealer schools and whatnot. And then the main space, like you said, there's 20, 21 cash tables up front and then like 30 something in the back for tournaments. That's where they used to do the stream. Now the stream is going to be in that middle space in that new studio. And they will fill that middle space up with tables for tournament overflow as well, which they do have another big series coming up
Yeah.
soon as well. So big happenings at the lodge. Also on the news front of the lodge, they increased their fees to $11 an hour now.
Indeed. And they did it while I was traveling. So all my homies like time banked at $10 an hour, and I missed the memo. FML.
No names, but do you know any amounts? Like, are people like, how much did someone?
I would have to ask them. I didn't, but I know that like a lot of times with other club like price baked deals and stuff, a lot of these guys that are in there playing 3-4 days a week put the maximum down that they'd let. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, can I buy like 1,000 hours, like a year's worth of hours or whatever. But I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if they I don't know. I don't pretend to know anybody.
I've done that
but-
at some clubs that do, when they first get on Poker Atlas and they're going to go on a prepay system, they'll say, we're going to do like a 50% match or whatever, and like up to what? This is when I played a little bit more, but I remember buying like 100 hours or something up front.
And there are a
getting
couple of
that.
times where people do these like price pick deals on the club that they frequent, and then their club changes hands.
Yes, it has happened. It has happened. So it's a little bit of a balancing act there.
So buyer beware in these like time bank deals, but the lodge is clearly not going anywhere anytime soon. They
I
have
think you're safe to prepay at the
domination on the local market. So if they let you pre-bank, I think that's a safe buy.
Yeah. Non-Texas poker news, but Phil Hellmuth.
Oof,
Slight downswing.
BB had a bad week. So he was very vocal about the fact that on Monday when he went on Hustler Casino Live, that was his biggest TV loss ever at 144,000.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Oh my gosh. That's a modest home. That's a fancy car.
Only to be one-upped like the next day.
Then he drove down the road in Los Angeles to Live at the Bike across town and left almost 200 with them, $194,000.
And you hear some of these, you see Wesley or like when Garrett played, you see these guys, they're buying in for 300, 400,000, $500,000 in some of the big ones, $1 million in some of the really, really, really big ones. Phil does not buy in like that. So
he typically short
$200K
buys to much criticism, and this time he bought in a little deeper, and he had the lowest VPIP on the table. I know on Hustler, I don't know if he maintained that low of a VPIP on the bike, but he received a lot of heat for folding to a 3-bet when he was 1,500 big blinds deep with Ace King.
I know we don't do a lot of strategy talk, but that's one of the things that I try to tell beginning poker players is how much the strategy changes based on stack depth. And it's kind of one of the funny things about the game that I have at my house. You've come to it one time. I say I do it monthly. It's like maybe quarterly at best. It hasn't been super consistent, but it's 25 cent, 50 cent, which is like a joke. And that's the running joke of the whole thing. The game is enormous. So even though it's 25 cent, 50 cent, people buy in huge because it's uncapped. And that makes the stack depths incredibly, incredibly deep. And so it really just opens up everybody's range. And it opens up everybody's range on every street except the river, of course. But it changes so much. And I think a lot of people, I think the standard player, say they're playing 1-2 and they're like 100 big blinds deep. Like that's just kind of standard poker, but they don't realize the mistakes that they make when they get that stack to like 900 or 1,000. And that's what you see so much in Texas is very, very, very deep poker. And there's a lot more gambling that happens like that. I think that's like a very commonly misunderstood strategy thing, at least among beginners, is how much the game changes with stack depth. So Phil Hellmuth sucks now. He kind of sucked before.
Well,
but
there was actually sort of a sweet moment on Twitter that I caught today where Kevin Martin, who is up for the GPI award for best streamer, he was on Big Brother Canada. He married a girl who he met on Big Brother Canada. I forget her name, but I met her. She's gorgeous. Anyway, so he had been challenged by Phil to come play on the Live at the Bike game. But after Phil left the game early last night, down almost 200K, he canceled the rest of his trip. And so Kevin kind of called him out this morning for like not fulfilling the obligation after like getting him to come and book his travel and whatever. So Phil, little sweetie that I guess Phil is behind the scenes IRL, he reimbursed Kevin for his travel and said that they would reschedule and play another time. So I thought that was kind of like a nice little moment. And then he had Kevin leave the tweet up, little sweetie, of him like being like, oh geez, Phil, you invite me to play and then you don't show up after I sell action and get my ass over here.
Speaking of GPI awards,
Yes.
you have a couple nominations. You want to talk about that?
Yes, I was nominated for 2 GPI awards for Rising Star in Content Creation and Best Video.
Best video being the original parody video?
The original parody video. So when they were like asking for people to submit content, I like sent them the 4 like sketches that I had at the time, poker sketches, and they're like, which one do you think is your best? And like the first one has far and away the most views.
Yeah, that one slapped.
So I said that one.
That should win, in my opinion. So
Thank
if
you.
it's
It's up
if it's
against-
a 1-vote panel and it's me, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you have a speech prepared?
No, I'm up against, in that category, I'm up against Joey's, like, live stream that he did, like, the big, long 12-hour
That can't be
one.
considered a video.
It is, and it's in the category. And then Marley.
bogus.
Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people, because the GPI awards are new, there aren't, like, a lot of... Some people are in inappropriate categories. Like they nominated Joey for Best Vlogger of the Year the first year they did it, and he doesn't even really vlog. He was like interviewing people on his podcast. So it's kind of things like that, or like that Joey's 12-hour live stream is up against comedy sketches by me, Marley, and Greg Goes All In. His vlogger doesn't know the voiceover. Goes after
That one is
not at
very
the table.
funny.
That one's really funny. And then Marley's Solver video where she's talking to the solver machine. It's really fucking funny. If y'all have studied theory at all, you gotta check that one out.
I like Marley's humor a lot. I wish she did a little more than she does. Cause
We're hoping to.
She's
She's working on it. She just moved to England. Her visa and whatever got approved. So I'm sure I'll see her back in the summer for the series. But we're
she gonna
hoping
get an
to
accent?
do a. I don't know. TBD.
That'd be really
I don't
weird
think
for
so.
her. I don't think she could pull that off.
She
actually.
might just over time, like living there, and she's living in like a small town where I'm sure people have like thicker accents than, or less posh than they live in, London or whatnot. So she may, I don't know, TBD. But hopefully we've been talking for a minute about finding a way to collaborate and do a sketch together. So we finally came up with an idea that we like, that we can do like from separate locations. So hopefully
You shouldn't say the whole word.
Work
The kids
that.
say collab now.
Okay, we're collabing.
Nice.
For
Nice.
subbies. We're collabing for subbies.
You're going to the GPI Awards?
Yes, I'm going to go. It happens right in the middle of the Lodge, like, main event. So it's that Friday night, but Lodge, in, Lodge tournament fashion, has, like, a gazillion day one flights. So the first day one flight A is Wednesday at, like, 5 p.m. So the game plan is to play that first flight, hopefully bag bullet 1, like the champion I am, and then fly to Vegas, spend a couple of days there, and hopefully be back in time for the day 2 that I've bagged the previous Wednesday. But, that's a low probability outcome, so I haven't booked all my flights and stuff yet. I got my my rooms, my accommodations, but I don't have my flight yet because I'm just waiting to see if I have to maybe try to play the morning flight on Thursday and fly out day of or something. But I really want to give that event an honest try. I think there'll be a lot of money up top that I want.
What's the buy-in on the main there?
It's 1,200.
That's a good price. I think they'll get a lot of bullets in that.
Yeah.
Are you accepting applications for date for that trip?
Yes, I do have a +1 as a nominee, and I don't have anyone to take me.
Okay, where can people send their resumes?
Instagram DMs or Twitter DMs.
Do they slide?
Great spot. Yeah, they can slide.
Slide into the DMs.
I'm probably going to ask one of my friends, but you can still apply.
Okay, apply within. I have a hand review. It's actually a somewhat serious one. This hand annoyed the shit out of me because I literally, in a very, very nitty fashion, I kind of felt like I knew where I was the entire hand. And I think this is how a lot of beginning players think about poker. So I'm actually dissing myself, but I was actually right here, and that ceases to matter. But I'm on the button, about 240-ish effective, playing 1-2, just at Red Star, whatever. I have King Jack. I'm the last one. I'm pretty much closing the action, or maybe there's one player behind me. I call a $15 raise, King Jack offsuit. Flop comes King Queen 6. I don't love it 5 ways because, yes, I have top pair, but like, Ace King makes sense. King Queen makes sense. You know, I could be up against King Jack chopping and just like putting a bunch of money in, maybe chopping. I'm not suited. I don't have a backdoor flush draw. Like, I just don't love it. It checks around to me. I just check it back because I'm like,
What's the flop? I'm sorry.
King Queen 6.
King Queen 6. How many ways?
5 ways.
5 ways. What are the suits?
It's rainbow.
Okay.
So I have no backdoor flush draw. No, it's pretty much a naked top pair. Like, I might get some value occasionally from King 10s in there, maybe some really loose pre-flop calls, other kings, maybe someone calling off with a queen.
Queens, 10s, jacks. You need to be more greedy,
but this
baby.
stuff doesn't really happen at 1-2. Like, people aren't really calling off.
Okay, fine.
With
It's a
pair,
completely different game that is not like
it
poker.
It is a lot different. So
I'm
anyways,
saying that sarcastically, Craig.
so the turn is a jack, so I pick up 2 pair, and I'm still just thinking about all the hands in people's ranges that are just going to call a single raise pre-flop and go see a flop and check the flop, right? Like, King Queen would check the flop for, an early position.
Okay.
Would check that flop. The original raiser folds to a bet by the big
I don't
blind.
think I think that assumption is wrong. The King Queen suited would check 5 ways out of position.
Okay.
Top 2 would. But anyway,
that's
continue.
Fair. So, small blind or big blind, whatever, first position of the 5 players on the jack turn, where I've now picked up first and third pair, he leads for 25, and then everybody
What percentage
folds.
of the pot is that?
It's like a third.
Okay.
So it folds. I believe everybody folds, and it's just down to me. I'm on the button. So I'm like, well, super nitty to fold here. And I don't.
You're considering folding?
No. I'm like,
God,
never
you make me
folding. It's just
depressed.
a question of calling or raising, and I land on call just because I know this player a little bit. I don't know him super, super well, but I'm like, I'm just going to call because he could absolutely have King Queen and Ace 10, the 2 hands that have me just like dead to rights. So because it checked the flop, gutter's totally there. So he could have Broadway as well.
Okay.
So I just call. River. Dream river for me. I river a king. I have kings full now.
Oh my God.
So dream river until he.
And there's no money in the pot. I hate you.
There's $125 in the pot, which is like almost a 1-to-1 SPR. So he leads, and he leads for 50. Mm-hmm. So like the nuts has changed. Like the dynamic of the board has changed completely, and he's still just leading, which is troublesome. And I actually considered just calling. And I was like, if I call and leave myself, I think I had like $94 behind. I was like, if I don't raise here, I'm just like a loser. Should I just go all in? Or should I try and get like a little bit of value out of worse boats or straights? So I min click him to 100. To which he like audibly sighs and rips it. So now I just know, like, especially this player and playing 1-2, like this is the nuts every single time. So I just like shrug and call off my last, $60 or whatever it was that I had. And he shows me King Queen. Like, I absolutely know the dude has King Queen.
Okay, that's just a cooler. I think it's wild that he showed up with King Queen, and I think you misplayed that hand. The results were not affected, but yeah, I think you played that hand a little scared. I would have bet flop and turn.
Same result.
Same result. Yeah, you got cooler. That's a cooler. You showed me a cooler.
Yeah.
That just happens. There's nothing you can do to avoid that. Do you really want to be in like that story horrified me when you were on the turn and it sounded like you thought folding was an option because you just so thought you were beat. And I definitely have had that situation where it's like I have, relative nuts in a hand, but there's like one or two hands that beat me and I'm just so convinced that my opponent has it. I'm not really hero calling in that position. If I did hero call, I certainly wouldn't tell anybody my holdings that I did it off the, just sort of intuition that you were holding the one hand that beats me that I block. I'm not going to
the discussion
give
I had,
you credit for that. I think you just have to get it in and say, oh, well, because you're exploitable if you behave that way.
Well, the other thing too is like on the river, like I said, when he leads, and for such a small size, I mean, he's clearly going for value. And because he was out of position and he didn't lead flop, I think that he was looking to check raise. Yeah. And I'm convinced
I think it would be nitty call to just call the 50, but if you were that convinced, I think that's the time to trust your intuition. But like, honestly, you can do whatever the hell you want. Like even Phil Hellmuth folding the ace king or whatever, I never give a fuck. Like sometimes I fold hands where it's like the charts say to call, but I have a bad feeling about it. And I don't want to play. I don't want to put the money in with that hand for whatever reasons. And fuck them.
So an interesting point that another good player I talked to about the hand, because I was just annoyed. I wasn't necessarily looking for improvement, but he goes, look, you can never, ever just call that river, because what if you just call that river and he turns over pocket sixes?
Or ace king, yeah.
Or whatever. King six. He has king six.
Yeah.
And just because he's closing the action pre-flop. Like there's so many hands that have worse boats there that are absolutely going to stack off. 100% going to stack off. And he's like, what if you just call, he turns over pocket sixes, you turn over king jack, and everyone at that table knows you did not raise in position with the second nuts. So it does kind of make sense. I hated it at the time because I know the guy to be particularly nitty, and I'm particularly nitty.
And I get caught doing nitty things or not great things every now and then. Like there was a bomb pot a 4-card bomb pot recently that I was in where I had a set on both boards on the turn and it had checked through turn. And then on the river, somebody like did a baby bet and like somebody else called, and I wanted to call the baby bet because I thought nobody would call a pot. If I potted it, nobody would call it, but that if I just called, maybe a few people would call behind. Like low frequency play, probably pretty inadvisable. I'm better off just potting it. Somebody probably would have called a pot bet. But anyway, I just called trying to get more dead money in the pot or get somebody to pot it behind me and I can repot, but then I have to show down 2 boats on a bomb pot where it checks through. I boated on both, so then I have to, but I have 10s full. There are 3 to 5 boats that beat me on both boards or whatever. Like, but I definitely knew I had the relative nuts after it like had checked through a couple of times. I just like made a judgment call that was incorrect. Like in retrospect, I should have just potted it. One of the 3 people that called the river bet would have called, and then I would have, so I left money on the table. I did end up scooping.
Sometimes we were talking about this the other day too, because players just will not know what they have. Sometimes they'll like back into some kind of hand and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, I have a straight. I showed somebody a boat the other day that they didn't notice.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Good players, bad players, people have no idea what they have. So I always tell people as a dealer, I'm like, just table your hand in a bomb pot.
Just table.
How many people at the table you were playing at, and I'm assuming you're playing with some good players, how many people do you think actually look at the texture of your hand and like go back and think, wow, I can't believe she played it this way on the turn? There's much going on in these bomb pots.
There's 1 to 2. There's Matt, Eric, and maybe Pierre are doing that, but I don't know.
I mean, do you think that they're actually going to see how you played that one hand and maybe put 2 or 3 together and play you differently in the future because
those players that I mentioned? Yeah, 100%. No, I mean, like when you get into the higher stakes game, it becomes more of a game of inches. People, occasionally will make giant whiffs and stuff, but more so it's the number of small correct decisions that add up over time rather than what happens in the pots where like you're coolered or you cooler somebody. Like those pots were etched in stone before we ever walked in the building. It's more so the game of inches, the tiny decisions. Do you go for thin value on rivers? And so us both in this situation where we, played a hand a little too conservatively, a little too passively.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's just so much going on in those bomb pots. I tell people, just table your hand. Nobody's really gathering information on the way that you play one hand per orbit.
Definitely not. All right.
So,
shall we wrap this bitch up?
I think we shall.
All right. I would like to say before we go into Harsh But Fair that I wanted to thank all my supporters who listen to this podcast and follow me on social media. Being nominated for these awards was a huge honor. I didn't make a lot of money from this content, so being able to be recognized sort of for the quality of the content and the setting is, it's a really good feeling, and it's really nice to have the support back home in Texas. I never forget where I came from. So thank you to all of you who consume my content. I really appreciate you, and I do my best to represent Texas well. And I love y'all. And Craig, you're included in that. Of course, one of my biggest cheerleaders. Thank you.
Well, it feels weird to get a nice compliment right before I'm about to just burn
No,
you
I'm
to
going to
the
make you
ground.
cry now. This is a different subject. I can appreciate you as a friend, but also hate you for being skinny.
Would you like to insult first or second?
Second. I want you to go first.
Okay.
Okay, and Harsh But Fair is a segment we do here at Texas Poker Experience where we give each other feedback. You are not allowed to respond to your feedback. That's a soft rule. You just must
because we respond every time.
With Harsh But Fair.
Okay. We had a very specific 2 to 3 minute discussion regarding your posture right before we started recording. I've watched you this entire podcast. You have been slouched like me, worse than me. I even gave you some helpful tips.
Harsh But Fair.
Your posture is wretched.
I tried.
Almost as bad as mine.
I was like, is this one better? Or is this one better? Is this one better? And Jack is like, clearly the one where you're not giving yourself rolls is better, Caitlin. What is wrong with you? And I was like, okay, so I'll say like this the whole time, and I'll just be the cutest little podcaster that ever was.
We briefly
didn't pull it off.
We briefly touched on children and raising children and stuff. That's one of the more fascinating things that I've noticed with my older one is that he sits and his posture with zero coaching is perfect.
Sir Charles,
It's
in that alignment.
Absolutely perfect. It's crazy. Kids, it's natural. It's how we are supposed to sit. But at some point, you just get, in your adult life, at some point, you just get slouchy and whatever. I'm not sure why that's comfortable. But you can sit Charlie in the most uncomfortable chair, but watching something on TV or whatever. You could sit him on a table, something that doesn't have a back on it. It's not even a chair. And he is just sitting there absolutely perfect. His shoulders are straight. His back is straight. It's unbelievable. And when does this transition take place and how do we stop it? Okay. Roast me.
Okay. Your Harsh But Fair is, Craig, I think you keep getting thinner. I think you keep getting thinner. I want to set you up on a wood trellis and put you in the field to protect my damn crops. Craig, scarecrow looking ass. Will you eat a fucking sandwich?
Many
you look like you've gained weight. I'm not even I'm trolling because that's the bit, but can you have a lard smoothie or can we get you some Ensures that we just put in your water?
There's so much food in my life. I don't know how to keep saying it without anybody believing. I'm going to have to live stream my eating habits or perhaps live stream a weigh-in on a day-to-day basis. I've told many people this. My weight has been within a 12-pound to 15-pound range.
Are you at the bottom of that right now, though?
For 20-something. No, I'm actually closer to the top.
Stop!
Yeah. Dad life. I'm actually closer to the top of the range.
We're going to get coffee milkshakes after this, just so you know.
Milkshakes masquerading as coffee drinks.
Yes, that's what. And I'm going to make you drink a chocolate milkshake in the middle of the day.
Give us some money, Summer Moon.
Yeah, Summer Moon. Please. And I actually I buy their espresso to make in my home for my at home coffees.
We could put a nice sign. Right?
Yeah, we have the ad space available. We're a
right
local, let's support local small businesses, lift each other up. Okay, y'all, this has been Harsh But Fair. And this has been the Texas Poker Experience. I'm Caitlin Komeski. This is Craig Sear. We'll be back making new episodes in 2023. If you have any ideas for topics that you would like to have discussed or guest ideas, we are more than open to hearing from you in the comment section, both on our Instagram at Texas Poker Experience podcast. Is it Texas Poker Experience or Texas Poker Experience, and our YouTube channel, Texas Poker Experience. Like and subscribe. We're really trying to grow this channel so we can continue to bring you the scuttlebutt round these parts.
Comment on those YouTube videos. You always comment back. You're very good about that. I kind of forget, and I'll go and read the comments, and I see you responded to every single one of them. So
I go through a flurry where I won't respond to any YouTube comments for a week, and then I'll respond to all of them at the same time. but you'll hear from me eventually. Okay.
That's good for
Bye.
me. Don't be a nit.
And remember to keep the straddle on.